All right, gentlemen, I have to make a confession. My fantasy football draft is this coming Sunday, and I literally have not looked at a single damn thing. But good thing is, you guys are all here to educate me and others on how the heck to draft for fantasy football. What's going on, fellas?
Much, man.
Yo,
Happy to be here.
ready to talk some football.
Deeb,
Sir.
I'm a little disappointed, Deeb, that you haven't prepped at all for fantasy football yet. But we are creating a free draft guide for anybody that's out there like Deeb. So stick around. We'll talk about that at the end tonight. Get your free draft guide and go kick your neighbors or your family's asses this year.
Hell yeah. Well, Scott, over the past few years, I've had a lot of different takes on how to prepare for fantasy football drafts, and it's ranged from putting in hours of work, looking at other people's guides, you know what I mean, doing mock drafts, talking to people. But the last few years, I've kind of taken more of a shotgun approach. But I have to say, this is by far the least prep I've ever done. So I know Jordan and Drew, you guys were on here last year, I think, around this time, and you provided some really insightful things. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing from you guys and for you to share with anybody who's listening or watching how the heck we should be drafting for the 2026 NFL season.
LOL.
Absolutely.
Maybe too confident there.
No, Drew's a commish in a dynasty league, you know?
LOL.
This guy's he's got the credentials. He's
actually the
also a
Grim
champ.
Reaper.
He's also a champ in
played
that league.
fantasy.
So
That's true.
So I
And-
think that
and Jordan
Scott-
and I are playoff contenders too, right? So we kind of know what we're talking about.
are you guys, I'm trying to remember, are you guys all in the same fantasy league, right?
Yeah, we're in a dynasty league that Drew invited us to. Drew, I'll let you, if you want to make a plug real quick, just to kind of talk about the league and how it came together.
Well, yeah, I think we talked about it when we came on the first time, just introducing the format. But basically, I was in a league before that. It was my first time playing Dynasty, and my buddy Travis and I were both in the league together. We had a commissioner that just kind of ran things however he wanted. And there's some weird stuff that we didn't get when we started. That as we got through the first year, it started to make more sense. And so we want to make another league that we could run on the side. We each brought in like half the league as our own friend group and just merged people together. And it's been going for year 4 now.
Yeah, this is year 4. And then
that-
obviously Jordan's a part of that too. And Jordan's been in this league from the beginning. I think, Jordan, you're in maybe the other dynasty, or you're in another dynasty league as well, right?
Well, funny enough, I was, but
You were in another dynasty league.
I quit that league after. I think I got second place. Wait, did I get second place? I think
yeah,
I
you got
I
second.
think I got second place the first year, and then I left because honestly, there was just some crazy trades. Like there's people that were doing stuff that was so crazy that I'm like, I don't really think I want to be a part of this. And then also taking advantage of that, which is Drew, because he always has the best team in all of our dynasty leagues, was even worse than it is in our league because he took the year off and just accumulated picks and just like had injured players and has like a crazy juggernaut in that league.
Dude, I have Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Colston Loveland, Malik Neighbors, Genty, Hampton, Bucky, Jeremiah Love, Roma Dunze. It's a sick team.
And
Cardinal
a
Tate.
12-teamer. And a 12-teamer.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Jeez.
And I have 3 firsts next year.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what, Jordan, you bring up an interesting concept, and this isn't really maybe how I thought we might start talking about fantasy football tonight, but I want to go down this road really quickly because in a world where we're all invited to so many different leagues and we have to kind of limit ourselves and say no, it's like there is this loyalty, right? Where it's like, oh, well, I'm in this league and I've been in these leagues for this many years standing. So what does it take from your guys' perspective to make you quit or to leave a fantasy football league? And I know you talked about some kind of unruly trading going on, Jordan, but I'm curious to hear from either of you or all three of you kind of what does it take to kind of give up that loyalty and just say, I'm done with this. I'm going to go find 5 other leagues that I can choose from.
Well, from my perspective, it's about having fun. The whole point of fantasy is to have fun.
Mhm.
And in that league, not only were people doing crazy trades that didn't make any sense, it was like pulling teeth trying to get like anybody to respond. I think I only knew like personally Drew and I think one other player in that league. So it was like I didn't have a personal relationship with those guys, and then I had a really hard time like getting them to respond. So it was more frustrating than fun. And so I was just like, you know what? Played 1 year, I'm not having fun, I'm not looking forward to it. And then the second part would be when you're in too many leagues, you actually have too many players on your team. so you can't root for anyone because if you have too many
Yeah.
leagues, you have every player's on one of your teams. So
Mhm.
if the player does well, it beats you in one league, it does good for one team. So it just kind of makes you numb, in my opinion. So I
Mhm.
try to narrow down my league so I have people to root for actually.
Yeah, in a way, it makes you, if you root for everybody, you root for nobody, right? Like you're never happy no matter what happens because something's always screwing you over, even when it's good for you somewhere else. It's fair. Drew, what about you? Have you had experience like leaving leagues that you've played in, and if so, what's the tip of the iceberg there?
I have never left a fantasy league.
He's
Wow,
soft.
I'm like too stubborn and too much of a people pleaser to do it. So that's why
That's
I'm still in
crazy.
this NCAA league with you. Like, I'm just seeing things through to the
Shots
end, you know?
fired.
yeah, I understand. Trust me, I don't want to be in the league either anymore, but we're almost done.
Sorry, I
Deeb,
It's
you
deserted
ever
supposed
you
to
left
be
the league?
guys.
fun. It's supposed to be
I like
fun.
this supposed to be fun argument. I think that a lot of things in life should apply to that, and sometimes
Let's
I
do
think
it.
we put too much pressure on ourselves to do what we've always done. Or like Drew, you mentioned you don't want to upset people. I get that so much. But then it's like, but then I hate myself every Sunday if I don't make someone else mad at me. So it's just like, where's the line? I they might listen to this because I'll probably promote this, but I just joined a league with my neighborhood and I said I was done joining leagues.
Me too.
And now I'm in a neighborhood league and I'm actually really pumped because I'm going to get to meet a lot of the guys here that like most of them live on my actual street and I haven't met most of them. So that's going to be really cool. But it's also like, damn it, dude, I just joined another league when I said I was
Yeah.
done. And so there is this like mental thing where it's like, I want the social aspects of it, but man, I'm going to hate myself on Sunday when I'm cheering for this one guy and then realizing he's completely screwing me over in another league.
Yeah, I just did
Yeah.
that actually. I hosted the neighborhood league this past weekend, Scott, on Saturday. I hosted, and I made the best pulled pork I've ever made, by the way, and got to share it. Got to
Ooh.
gloat over the other
Ooh.
dads in the neighborhood. What's up? But yeah, it's good social stuff.
No, I actually really like, excuse me, I like what you said, Jordan, when it becomes not fun and then you have all the, competing players and you're like, I don't even know who to root for this weekend because I want this guy to do well, but then if this guy doesn't, then I'm going to lose in this one. For me, I mean, I got to a point where I think I was in maybe like 4 leagues at some point in the past, and none of them were Dynasty. They were all redraft leagues, and it was kind of like people you work with, friend groups, all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
I've been loyal to the one league that I've been in the longest, which is with my high school friends. We've done the league forever. It is a redraft league. And that one, more so, like you guys said, it's kind of to stay connected with the guys and all that kind of stuff. But I had to scale it down, man, because to what you guys were saying, like it just was not fun. It got to a point where it was no longer fun, and that is the purpose of it. And I was like, all right, something's off here. I can't just keep going down this pathway because then it's just not, like you said, it's not fun to watch either.
I think I've heard some people put it like as soon as you are annoyed to have to go look at waivers each week, you have too many leagues that you're managing.
It's fair. Yeah. Yeah,
I
because
heard
that should be
someone
an exciting thing in the middle of the season, right? It's the only control you have, really, other than deciding who starts and sits on the team you already have.
I heard one sicko that said that if you get an app to help manage all your leagues, then you really have a problem. I've never been in
I
that many
might.
leagues, but people that go real crazy to get like an app organ, like a league organizer or like a website to like manage all your leagues. It's like
Yeah.
I've never
Sign me
gone
up for
that big.
Claude Pro. Claude Pro is going to
Yeah.
manage these 3 teams for me.
Hey, that might be a good idea. That might be a good idea to try if it's not out there. So,
Well,
I want to ask you guys though this, because I know you guys seem like you play in the Dynasty League from what we've talked about, but I'm curious, like, to have a debate about this. There's all these now. There's even more than there was maybe 5 or 10 years ago. There's all these different kinds of formats of leagues, right? You have like the redrafts, the dynasties. You have the DraftKings format where it's like more of like a weekly type thing. So I want you guys to convince me why one is better than the others, or why you maybe prefer one versus the other ones.
Drew, you can start.
I definitely would lean Dynasty, obviously, since that's been my thing that got me on here for the first time, unless it was when we talked about Wimbledon randomly. But
We
I'm
won't
in
do
like,
that again.
yeah, I've been in like 4 Dynasty leagues now, and I still keep a redraft league going, at least one per season, just because it's fun to have like a different like mindset, and it kind of makes you look at your Dynasty players in a different way. But it is just like so much more satisfying, like in every way for me to do it. It just scratches a different itch in my brain. It's more fun.
on the same wavelength here. Dynasty is just more fun because you still get like the redraft part of the season. So we're Dynasty League. We're about to have our players. We're about to start the season. It's going to be the same matchups, the same basically as if you were doing redraft, and then you just get all the extra. The biggest thing is if your first round pick in redraft gets injured, blows out their ACL week 1, you lose. You're done for the season. Like if it's a competent league, like barring something crazy where you picked up Puka his rookie year in the 15th round or something, or off waivers. But basically, you're probably so then you're like, okay, cool. I guess I have to wait a whole another year to play fantasy football. Whereas if you're in Dynasty, you can say, oh, I have a value asset that's injured right now is not scoring me points. Do I reevaluate my season? Do I trade him? Do I still try to compete? Oh, there's a lot of things, but Dynasty is just like it's like redraft plus for me, and satisfying when you have a trade that was a long time ago and you get to like way down the line, you know. So that's just I like it, and then the weekly stuff is just for all you gambling addicts that like to pull flop machines.
Well, okay. No, let me counteract that. Let me play the devil's advocate for the weekly stuff. All right. Yes, it's more of a gambler's game, I would say, right? However, if you are not a dynasty player, or even if you are, there is some validity to being able to choose whoever you want every week and never worrying about bye weeks, never having to consider injuries because those people are just not even on the, you don't choose from them anymore, right? So there's something satisfying about looking at a list of players and trying to manage a budget for a one weekend approach and just saying, hey, man, I'm going to just put these players out there and we'll see what happens. And I have no loyalty to them. Next week, I can just do it totally different. If this guy gets a concussion tonight or if he tears his ACL, no sweat, I'll pick someone else next week. There's no attachment to the players, and it almost makes you feel like you're like some superstar analyst, like putting forth the best team if you just had like the world as your oyster in front of you, but you still had to manage a budget. That's my defense to it. However, everything I just said also has a con to the pro, right? Like most of the fun in fantasy football is the loyalty to the players. It is the attachment to your players. It's having your guys. And there's no better way to have your guys than a dynasty league where you keep them forever unless you trade them. And I just think unless you are in a rebuild season in a dynasty league, it's objectively the best way to play fantasy football, I think. But you do have to pay more attention and you have to be engaged throughout the whole year instead of for a few months, right? So yeah, if you're in a rebuild in a dynasty to where you know you're going to suck, but you're going to be good in a couple of years, then yeah, maybe you want to stack a few redraft leagues that year to have something where you might actually win. But otherwise, dynasty all day is kind of my opinion.
The thing about dynasty that's even better though, to go off of where you're like leaving that, Scott, is when your team sucks, it's almost more fun. Like it's more fun to be the rebuilder because as soon as you're competitive, like it's stressful and you're trying to win again. So like I know Jordan and I both kind of like retooled some teams or done like the productive struggle build or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so much more fun to just like not have any stakes each weekend, draft really sick rookies, and then like accumulate all this value. And you're like, yeah, it might blow up in your face, like they don't turn into what they're projected to be. But it's almost like more fun to have the bad team and rebuild than it is to like be stressed out every single week again, like a redraft league.
Yeah, the two of you weren't you the worst two teams in the league in our dynasty for the first year and then like instantly flipped that around, like year 2 and 3 became very prominent. Year 3, both of you were like in the top 3 teams, I think. So you guys both did that very successfully. And I think you had the right mentality for a dynasty league where you realize like, I am going to suck now. And I actually hope that I do, but not forever. Like you were intentional about like, I'm not going to suck forever. I'm going to suck for a little bit. And then this is my target. Jordan used to talk about this a lot, but maybe Jordan, I'll have you explain it. Talk to me about like your target year, because there was a time period where you said, I want to be a playoff team in this season. How do you come up with that formula?
Yeah, I mean, I stole it from other like content stuff, but the idea is that if you don't pick a year that you're going to compete, like at least it should be 2-3 years, 3 years at the most, because otherwise you're literally just going to be bad forever, and the goal is to win. So you have to like decide when you're going to be a competitor, and you'll go in from acquiring assets to like buying, older players or something. Like you don't need draft picks anymore. I need to sell draft picks to buy producing assets. So that's just like the idea is that forces you to like, okay, I need to get ready for this season because I said I would, and it kind of makes you play a little different because you get stuck in that rebuilding mode and you get stuck there forever and you literally never compete.
Yeah, and we've seen that in our dynasty league where some guys kind of live in that in between where it's like they're mostly rebuilding, but then occasionally make trades. Like it's like they're trying to be good. And then they turn around and make another kind of rebuild trade. And it's like, when are you actually planning to compete? Because you're paying the buy-in every year and you're playing and you're very active every year. Do you enjoy watching your team lose? Like eventually you've got to shit or get off the pot, right?
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about my general thoughts on redraft, because that's the one I have the most experience with.
Yes.
I absolutely hate the injury thing. Like that by far is the worst feeling when, and it's happened to me. I mean, I'm sure many people that are listening multiple times where like you get the guy, you're like, I've got like, you know, who was it? Adrian Peterson. I think I had one year with the first pick, and it was the year he got. I think he got I think he tore his ACL or whatever it was when he got hurt, and I'm like, my God, like this is the only time I've ever had the first pick ever, and the guy that's the best running back literally tears his ACL. Like, what is the chances of that? You know what I mean? So the injury part, I hate. It's honestly the worst thing about redraft, in my opinion. The waiver wires, I can live with it. Yeah, I've had some. I think if you play the waiver wires the right way, you pick up a good guy. Like I think I picked up maybe Bucky Irving his rookie season. He had that like breakout
Yeah.
year. I think I picked up maybe Baker Mayfield when he had like kind of the pretty good year. It was either last year or the year before. So yeah,
Definitely the year before.
you can do the waiver wire thing. It's all a game. It's all part of it. But I don't know. It's just kind of like the people that I play with. We've talked about doing a dynasty, and everyone has voted against it. The rationale hasn't really been anything crazy. It's more just like we don't want to do that. And I don't know why, because I mean, we have had a league for like 10 years, right? So it would kind of make sense. And it's not a revolving door. We've had like the same guys for most of that. But we are doing, I know Scott, and maybe you're part of this, and we are trying to do like the DraftKings weekly for this coming year to see how that goes, because there's a ton of guys that we do a golf league with, and many of them showed interest in it. So I'm at least happy that I get that this year, where it's like, give me something a little bit different to mix it up.
Yeah. The one plug I would say, like if I had to give you my elevator pitch, Deeb, to tell your friends for Dynasty, is just because it's different doesn't mean that it's worse. In fact, if you are going to be in this league with these guys for so long, it gives you so much more fuel to live out the league all year long and to really kind of grow that community in that league. But also when you suck ass, it's not a death sentence for your season. Like what Jordan said, it gives you an opportunity to reframe your strategy. You don't have to be bad forever, but when things don't go your way, you can pick up and change kind of what your approach is. So maybe you're not going to convince everyone of that. Maybe people like having a new team every year and whatever. But I do not think anything emulates running an actual sports team better than having a dynasty fantasy football team if you're just a random guy on the couch.
Look at a zag here, and I think you should not do a dynasty league with your friends, Steve. If they're not even interested, because here's a way to have very little fun, is to force people that don't really want to do it to play in a dynasty league, and all they do is pay attention in redraft, and then nothing happens, or there's like very few people that are trying to be active year round or like in the off season, and no one responds or no one wants to do anything, and then you're like, why the hell are we doing this in the first place?
Yeah.
So I recommend, if they voted not to, then don't do it, because what really makes Dynasty fun is the people that you play it with. Because there's guys in our league I've never met in real life, and I shoot the shit with them like regularly in the DMs, and I've never met them before. But like I've like gotten to know them, so, like, because we just play Dynasty together. But if you don't have those types of people in your league, it's gonna not be fun, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You got to have the buy-in, and that's why I'm at least glad there was buy-in to do something different this year, right? I was just asking for something. I was like, we got to do something different. I don't care if it's not Dynasty. We just have to try something different, right? Like it's getting a little stale. It's getting a little bit old. So I get it. And then I think, Scott, maybe you had mentioned this to me, but do you guys do like keepers in your guys's? I mean, I know maybe a Dynasty, it doesn't make sense, but is there something weird with like keepers that you had mentioned to me?
Well, in Dynasty, you keep everybody. Your draft in the summertime is only for rookies. So our draft is 4 rounds, and everyone just drafts 4 new rookies. And with that, we have what's called the taxi squad. Drew, go ahead and explain that, because I don't want to steal the thunder here.
It's kind of goofy. It's like a dynasty fantasy convention where like you basically can stash players up till a certain years served in the NFL. So it's almost like a minor league system to
Mm.
some extent, but they don't count against your total bench. So you can still roster like X amount of players, but the 4 people on your taxi, they have to stay there. It's so like I don't know. You say it out loud, it's goofy. Like if they come off your taxi mid-season, they can't go back. Blah blah blah. But it's more just an added layer of strategy because you want to like stash those 4 players away because you're basically like wasting a spot if you were to take them off or move them. So it's a fun little farm system, and then you reassess every year.
Okay. Maybe that's what it was, Scott. I don't know why I said keeper. I think I was looking for the word taxi, but
Yeah.
for whatever reason, keeper is what came to mind.
Taxi's a wild ride, man, because you want to have as many people as you can possibly have on there, but you are limited to, I think in our league it's 5. It's like every year you got to kind of reevaluate, like, do I want to ride this guy another year, or is this guy just complete trash and I need to replace him with someone else who might be good?
Yeah, for sure. So I do want to talk about, because I know in the beginning we talked about the draft guide, which folks will be able to access with this episode, but I'm really curious to hear about your guys' draft strategy. I know it's going to differ a little bit based on dynasty, redraft, and all that kind of stuff. So if you can kind of put your hat on for maybe both, and say like for dynasty, I would maybe do this, but for keeper or keeper and or redraft, I would do this. I'm just kind of generally curious, like what is your guys' philosophy when it comes to draft? Because everybody has their little tips and tricks, and everybody kind of has their bunnies that they pull out of their hat when it comes to the draft. So this is something that I do need advice on for this coming weekend.
Let's do redraft first, and maybe we just can all talk about redraft, and then we'll talk dynasty after, so that
Okay.
this feels like it's more connected. Because
Yeah.
I would like to hear kind of philosophy from you guys about what you do early, middle, and late, and kind of how that all fits together into a strategy. And I know that differs significantly in a dynasty league compared to a redraft league. So let's talk about redraft first. And Jordan, you can kick us off here. But what is kind of your general strategy for approaching the draft for redraft leagues?
Well, first and I think foremost is you need to know your format and your scoring, your settings for your league. That seems like a no-brainer, but that's going to drastically change. Like in my recent league, it's a 10-person league, but I wanted more depth. So I added an extra flex and then 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs. So clearly that adding the extra wide receiver spot is going to bump the value of wide receivers in that league overall, in my opinion, because you have to start an extra one every week. But that's just an example. Know your settings. Other than that, as far as we can get into more details in a bit, but generally flexibility, you want to try and be flexible based off of what other people do, and then try to, I say, counter that to try and maximize your value in the draft. So if a bunch of running backs go early, don't panic. That just means you're going to get some crazy values at wide receiver later, and then you can scoop up that value. And it can go for any position. I'll let Drew go in a second, but like in my most recent draft, tight ends went super early. So I just basically punted until the very end of the draft for tight end because everyone was taking them, in my opinion, way too early. So
Yeah, and just to kind of summarize there, Jordan, I think that value is the thing that I always focus on in redraft, right? Like you said, don't panic. And I think that is the biggest singular advice that you can give to somebody who's building a team. You can't go in and say, like, I want this player in this round. I want this player in this round. You can if you're very, mentally able to adapt. But I feel like if you set yourself up for someone to snipe your pick and then have no backup plan, and you're not willing to be value focused, then you're not going to have a good team. There's been plenty of drafts where I was like, oh, I want to go wide receiver round 1 and maybe round 2. But then like people switch up and all of a sudden like Jonathan Taylor falls to me in the 8th pick. And I'm like, well, hey, we're going to go running back now and we'll just figure out what we need to do next. I think you just have to be flexible to countering their strategies, like you said, to maintain the highest value for your pick. It really goes a long way. But Drew, tell me about your strategy.
Piggybacking off that, I probably am a little too reliant on them at times when I like first got into Dynasty and especially in a redraft. But like a lot of people preach using tier-based drafting, basically. So you want to like ignore the ADP, like don't be like hypnotized by where people are drafting on the platform, and have an idea of like buckets that you put players into. And that way, like if somebody is slipping, you can identify like Jonathan Taylor fell to the 8th, like that's a slam dunk pick. And that way, like if somebody else is like reaching on something, you can identify that and scoop up value later without just, oh, I have to get another running back now. You don't. Like, there's better players right in front of you. Take them.
Mm-hmm.
But to that, like on the other side of that, don't be a slave then to like using that, because you also want to like pick players you like to root for. So like you might reach a round or two on Marv, even though he's like 2 tiers below like where like consensus says he should be drafted, but you just want to root for him. So you'd rather like have him on your team if he does go off. So sometimes you just have to ignore the rankings and go with your guys.
You know, maybe the most psychotic thing that I've ever done, and I feel like usually in previous seasons, maybe where I had more mental capacity without the newborn child and all that happening, I didn't do this before, but I found myself in some redraft leagues this year, like trying to look at the board and calculate, like, well, if I pick this guy now, it's a little too early, but like I'm counting the number of picks before my next pick, and he might not be there. So I'm going to pick him early because my next pick, he won't be there, not because he's maybe should be at this pick, but because I want him more than these other 10 guys and I don't have a pick for 11 more turns. So like there's some weird kind of mental math you can do too, where like, yeah, maybe it doesn't make sense for your exact pick, but if that guy's going to go before your next pick and you really wanted him, then maybe you should pull the trigger. And I think that goes back to what Jordan said about, and Drew, you did too, about ADP is not everything. The average draft position does not dictate everything, and it shouldn't dictate your draft.
Yeah, I think ESPN's terrible in their ADP, considering I just
ESPN
drafted
is
there.
garbage. I hate
I don't
Yahoo
like it.
as well. I hate NFL's rankings. I'm just going to throw all that out there. Hey, if you guys are, if you're listening and you've never, and you're starting a redraft league still, just do yourself a favor and download the Sleeper app and do it on there, like everybody else in modern fantasy football.
So my league voted it out. I started the league on Sleeper, and then I guess someone didn't like it, or I think they just weren't used to it, and they were used to ESPN. But then I said, okay, let's put it to a vote, and ESPN won. And so we've used it, and there's absolutely nothing about it that's better than Sleeper. But that was the vote, so I was a man of the people. Luckily, I won't get too far into the weeds, but luckily they allow like the bonus win. They call it a bonus win instead of the median. But we can do, which PSA, everyone should do this in their leagues. The bonus win against the median. So I have a 10-person league. Briefly, you play an extra matchup. The 5 highest scoring teams will get an extra win. The 5 lowest scoring teams on the week get an extra loss. And it just adds some insurance that the highest scoring best teams will be in the playoffs at the end of the year. Rant over.
Interesting. Is that
I'm
like
a big fan of that.
Is that like a setting you can do? Okay, I've never heard of that.
I'm a huge fan of that rule, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jordan. And I'm going to talk to my neighborhood guys about it because we have not discussed that for our league that drafts later this week.
So
are you on Sleeper, Scott?
No, that is my only ESPN league.
You can do it on ESPN.
That's good to know. I've migrated all of my other leagues to Sleeper now, as they should be. ESPN's fine, it's what people know because it's been around for 25 years. But yeah, it's Sleeper's just better.
Yeah, and we use Yahoo, and I do not like Yahoo. I like it better than ESPN, but it's not by much. It's just like if I had to pick one, maybe I'd rather do Yahoo than ESPN. So let me ask you guys this though. So what's your take on where to pick a quarterback? Because I feel like this is a controversial one that I see the most random things happen all across the internet and in my league as well.
Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, it depends on the format. Obviously, like going to Jordan's first point with the last thing we're talking about. But like if it's super flex, it changes it a little bit, and I kind of prefer that format because normally if it's a 1 QB thing, which is like what we all grew up playing, I don't know. I'm not taking a quarterback till like the 8th or 9th round, especially this year. Like there's just the quarterback position is so deep. Obviously the rushing upside guys you still take a little sooner. I'm not even the guy that's like taking Josh Allen this year in a 1 QB thing. Like I'll let somebody else do that. There's so many other like higher value position players in that range that I'm taking QB late. Super flex, then you can take Josh Allen first with your first pick.
And Drew, just for completion's sake, will you just define what super flex means for anyone who might not know?
Totally. So it's the same thing as like a flex position in your lineup, but it's super. It lets you put a quarterback into it. So you can essentially have the flexibility to play 2 quarterbacks a week. So it is different than just a straight up 2 QB league. You still have the flexibility to not play a quarterback in that spot if you wanted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the super flex changes everything. If you're going to be able to start 2 quarterbacks, then that position is objectively more valuable than really any other position. Jordan, go ahead though before I add my 2 cents.
It's all about opportunity. And that's just like the easiest way to put it. If you're going to take a quarterback in the 4th or 5th round, there's so many like starting running backs and wide receivers that you could add to your roster there. And then just the difference between that quarterback and one you could get in the later rounds is just not the same as the running back or wide receiver you could get in the 9th or 10th round. And that's just it. So that said, though, I'll ask you all, what is the lowest you would let Josh Allen fall? Because let's say everyone has this strategy. Usually there's the one knucklehead that takes him in the first or second round. And you're like,
Yeah.
thank God you bit the bullet there. But if he falls 4th round, is that like where you're like, Josh Allen sit at 5th round? You're like, okay, this is getting crazy. Do you take him?
4th round, if I'm early, it's a tough decision. If I'm middle or late, then I'm taking him. 5th round, if he's on the board at any position,
Yeah,
he's on my squad.
Agreed.
But that's only Josh Allen. If it's not Josh, for me, if it's not Josh Allen, then I'm waiting till like round 9 or 10, because once everyone drafts their starting quarterback, well, guess what? Like that 13th or 10th or 11th quarterback that's left, however big your league is, his average compared to the last 5 or 6 quarterbacks that were drafted is pretty much the same damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm gonna just wait and let everyone choose all these quarterbacks. And then guess what? There's still a Justin Herbert there. There's still probably a Dak Prescott there. Like and I don't even like Dak Prescott, but if I can get him in the 10th or 11th round, then I'm gonna play him. So
this guy doesn't like points.
You know what? my Dak propaganda, my slander on Dak Prescott, it predates his actual fantasy football success. I feel like the first year he did really well was the year I traded him away, and then I ate my socks that year. It's fine.
Sounds like a bias to me.
Yeah.
We'll talk about those. We'll talk about some biases tonight. Yep.
So quarterbacks. All right, I think I got that. So let me give you guys another scenario, because there's a lot of folks out there who would say you should absolutely draft, and people are in two different camps, a wide receiver in the very first round or a running back. Like there's people that are in both camps. Some would tell you wide receiver for sure. Some would tell you, no, you got to draft a running back in the first round. What's the right answer?
Man, you know what? I actually think it doesn't matter. In the first round, they're drafted in the first round because they're elite players. So whether you draft Jonathan Taylor or Amon-Ra St. Brown, that was the choice that I had. It's like, that's really not a bad choice. I was at the 7th spot. I took Jonathan Taylor, but it wouldn't have been like completely incorrect to take Amon-Ra St. Brown. I actually went running back in my most recent draft. My rationale there is when you look at the 3rd round, I liked the wide receivers there better than I liked the running backs there. So I got my 2 elite running backs. I was at the 7th spot in a 10-man league. I went JT into Kenneth Walker back around the turn. I thought Kenneth Walker was a little undervalued personally, so I took him there.
I agree.
And then I got Chris Olave as my wide receiver 1, which I'm very happy about in the 3rd.
Are you still happy about it?
He's fine.
He's fine.
He's fine.
Everybody's fine.
Everyone's walking on their own without the trainers. That's the moral of today, right?
To answer your question, Deeb, again, flexibility is king. Don't lock yourself into like, I have to take a wide receiver first. I have to take a running back first, especially if someone falls. What if someone falls to you? And that's just like, what if Puka falls to 7 or 8? That's a smash pick, in my opinion. So you do it no matter what you want to do, you're going to take that pick.
Drew, what are your thoughts? Anything different?
No, especially this year, like the high end talent is so high end, it's kind of hard to make a bad pick. So then it kind of comes down to like, what if you get the guys in the same tier, like what might be safer points? Like if you're staring at Drake London versus Amon-Ra St. Brown, like you kind of just got to go Amon-Ra, right? Because you just know he's in a better system.
Yeah, with anyone is throwing the football to, and then even God, I can't even think of his name, but whenever Penix comes back, yeah, you still don't feel good about it, right? So
right, I think Jefferson is still the best receiver in football, but if it was like him versus Amon-Ra St. Brown, like you kind of got to go Amon-Ra, I feel like, with the uncertainty with Kyler there. So even though they're clearly like same tier, like fantasy asset. So I mean, there's not a wrong answer in the first round, and then I think like the sharp leagues are doing a lot of like early running back, because there's like a very clear cliff with the running back talent where you'd be comfortable starting them versus how deep the league is at wide receiver right now. So I think a lot of people are taking running backs early again this year.
Deeb, to your original question, if somebody says you have to take running back round 1, or someone says you have to take wide receiver round 1, I would say to you, both of those people are wrong. That's what it comes down to. Both picks are good.
You could take Brock Bowers in the first round.
You could, I don't know. I don't know if I would do that. However, I think the number 2 pick, number 3 pick, those are really good examples of that. And we can maybe get into that here in a little bit. But we're looking at, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs are kind of leading the way as running backs. But then you've got, God willing, if his injury is fine, you had Jamar Chase, you got Puka Nacua, you got some big wide receivers that are right there in that mix too, and some of these ADP rankings. And so who's to say that you take, Gibbs over Chase or Nakua, and what's right or wrong there? And I don't think there is a right or wrong there. And if one of them happens to slip, like let's say your draft starts doing this, I need a wide receiver round 1, and you can take Jahmyr Gibbs at number 3 or 4, then that is absolutely the pick. So only a Sith deals in absolutes. We should not be saying you have to do something.
Okay, so let's move to Dynasty. Let's put our Dynasty hat on, because I'm curious, how does your draft strategy change? Because I imagine it's very different if you're you got an entire team and now you're really just drafting rookies, right? So how does it change in those leagues?
Can we talk about what we did in our Dynasty League, the one that all 3 of us are in? And then we can talk about maybe lessons learned, but it might be fun to kind of hear what we did and then what we think is best.
What I did in the startup, if I remember correctly, every startup I do, I just draft for value. So like whatever the most valuable thing is that's there, I grab it. Whether like they're coming off a bad season, it's just a really good value, or they like tore their ACL last year, so they're not going to like touch the field for you basically. If it's like the most valuable thing in my eyes, I take it. And then if that ends up with me having a competitive team, so be it. A lot of times when you buy like the injured assets and stuff like that, you trend towards doing like a 1-year rebuild thing. So I basically drafted for as much value as I could, identified my team was kind of mid in terms of like a competitive, like a redraft lineup for the weekly lineups. And so I immediately started selling off other like competitive pieces like DJ Moore. I traded Jalen Hurts coming off like his best season for like Trevor Lawrence and Breece Hall and a first. Like I just immediately like traded for future value, and then spent like the years following that like building up through the rookie draft and like buying other hurt players because my team was already committed to years down the road. Like who cares if I go buy Joe Burrow because he's hurt now?
Yeah. Jordy, what about you?
Drew actually sparked just an idea about Dynasty is you can really take advantage if you have like, let's say ours is a 10-person team and you've got 8 guys that think they can win the championship. If you're one of the 2 rebuilders, you're about to have a field day because you're going to have 8 people fighting for your producing assets, and they're going to be paying, you're going to be competing against each other to how much draft capital, how much future value can they send you. So that's what I mean when Dynasty has even extra layer of like strategy to it. I admit, whenever Drew asked me to play Dynasty, I hadn't done any fantasy. I hadn't been paying attention to the NFL for a while. And so I found a resource that I thought seemed pretty good, and then I used that as like my draft value for the startup. Dynasty also has a problem where picks and rookies probably are overvalued as a general rule. People don't want Devontae Adams in Dynasty. They don't want Derrick Henry in Dynasty because they're old and they're going to be out of the league soon. So then
I wanted him for a 3rd round pick this year, though.
So for that said, I kind of overdrafted a lot of young guys. So I drafted JSN early. I drafted Zay Flowers. I drafted Charbonnet. Some of those worked out. I ended up getting rid of JSN, boo me, before he was at what he is now.
I got him.
But
Wow.
because I did that, I was kind of like locked into like a retooling or a rebuilder in that league early on. But because most of the league was going for it, I do think down the road in the next season or 2, I was able to make some good moves, and then now I'm probably
one of the top teams in the league.
Favorites
Yeah.
to win it all.
Yep. Yeah, I took a different approach, and it didn't work out hopefully how I thought it would, but I'm not out of the hunt yet. But I drafted a combination of like, I want to be competitive now, so like almost like a half redraft strategy. But then the other half was like, when I'm on the fence about a pick, I'll go with a young player for that pick, just because if this doesn't work out, at least I've got youth. And so what happened for me is that I had some older guys, but I also had mostly youth. And then I ended up actually not having a great first regular season, but then made it to the championship in our first year. And then, like Jordan said, I realized that the value of the draft picks is not a guaranteed. Not every rookie pans out. And so I started offloading picks and loading my team up to try and be more competitive. And I actually thought I was better in the second season, but ended up in 4th place. And then this past year, I was in 2nd. But I do feel like when you take the strategy I do and you're not retooling with rookies every year, your time is limited. I traded 3 first-round draft picks, so I don't have like really good rookies on my team ever. And so like if I don't win like this year or next year, I worry that I'm going to be in this full rebuild sooner than later. And one thing I will say, cautionary tale as a first-time dynasty owner, quarterbacks, even in a super flex league, quarterbacks I think are harder to trade for their actual value than any other position. I have Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and I cannot get like anybody would want that in a league where you can start 2, especially over the last 3 years. But I cannot get their value back in a trade. So if I went into a rebuild right now, I would lose value by trying to trade away those quarterbacks. It's a lot different than trading wide receivers or running backs. So that is like my cautionary tale in a dynasty league is do not overvalue the position of quarterback because nobody else is going to.
Okay. Interesting. So, I mean, generally, it sounds like you guys each have had kind of a little bit of different strategy going into Dynasty. Some of it's more, am I going to draft for the future? Am I going to try to, win or, maybe kind of the middle road where I'm going to draft some players that can perform now and I give up maybe some younger guys or potential draft picks for the future. So, if you guys had to give like one piece of advice for somebody that's either in a dynasty league or is starting a dynasty league, what would that be?
Drew, go ahead.
I'd say just pick your like league members wisely. Like pick people that you know will be invested in playing weekly and yearly. Bonus points if they're people that want to keep checking the app during the off season. Like there's one thing to be like tuned in during the season, and then there's some people that feels like they just like delete the app in the off season, and then they're like not really a part of the league for the whole year. So I think like basically who you pick to join the league will dictate how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
My advice, which I'm still trying to get away from, is don't let, especially if you're a new player, you're going to find value calculators on the internet. It's going to happen. Do not let yourself get obsessed with the value calculators because what it'll turn into is just a stock market value game. And it's not even fantasy football anymore. You'll be like, ooh, if this player plus this player could be this player. I personally use the calculators sometimes, especially if there's a lot of pieces, if there's multiple players and picks to get an idea of where it's at. But at the end of the day, don't do that. It takes a lot of the fun out of it. And then the second part would be roster players that you like. Nothing's worse than having a player you can't stand on your team, but you need him to do well. So that doesn't mean just like give him away for
years,
nothing.
not just for 1 year, but for multiple years.
I mean, you can try to find a way to move him. Don't give him away for nothing, but it's just fun to like take a risk on a guy. Like if there's some young guy, go get him and overpay for him. Who cares? By the calculators, overpay. Go get your guy, and then when he hits, it's going to be one of the best feelings in Dynasty when you like have a contrarian take on a guy and then it pans out. So that's part of the fun.
Okay. Yeah, Deeb, I think my advice, and again, my only experience with Dynasty has been with these guys, and I've only done the one league. I think one of the hardest things to do in fantasy football, if you've never done Dynasty before, is being honest with yourself about your team. I admit this to people all the time. I have like a my guys thing. There's definitely a personal bias where I believe
definitely not.
Yeah, I mean it's obvious. Everyone knows this, but I have an optimistic viewpoint of the guys on my team, and I feel almost like an attachment to like I really hope that they can get to this next tier, and it becomes a thing where it's hard for me to move on from people because I feel like they could, and when I watch them play, I'm like, oh well, they have the skill sets. The production hasn't matched it yet, but maybe it will. And this maybe it will concept sticks in my mind and it helps me feel good about my team, but it really hinders me from seeing the real identity of my team. And even now, like I'm starting to have this realization, like I think last year was the year I needed to win for my dynasty league. I feel like this year I still could win. Anytime you make the playoffs, you can win. But I feel like every year that we move forward right now, unless I start making some big changes, my team is going to get worse and worse every year. And so being honest with yourself will help you to figure out what your next move is. But if you can't figure out your identity, then you can't goal set. And if you don't goal set in a dynasty league, then you're never going to be a competitor long term.
I think I just realized something about you, Scott, after that speech that you just gave. I think Scott's a closet Shedeur Sanders fan.
Well, nope.
Is he concealing that?
Hey, I will have you know that like 3 months ago, I picked up Deshaun Watson, and I don't feel good about it. And
I think I'd be nicer to him, man.
Can we talk? Okay, sidebar. It's kind of crazy that a guy with his personal history was making comments about people booing him. Like, maybe you don't. Maybe you just focus on the field at this point. Like,
he has zero regrets.
he did say that. He has no regrets in his life. Yep, he did say that. Honestly, I picked him up because I needed another starting quarterback on my roster, but I hate it. And now that he was named a starter, it's like, well, at least I have a starting quarterback on my bench, which at the time I picked him up, Rodgers wasn't guaranteed to come back, but you don't want either one of them as your backup quarterback. And I have them both as my backup quarterbacks now.
Zero regrets, only good massages.
Lots of good massages.
Cleveland's going to have that up on a billboard somewhere. You have to. All right.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you guys about something that's also, in my opinion, an interesting topic, but let's talk about the draft grades that you get after your draft comes out. Like for years, I've gotten the draft grade from Yahoo, and it's always like C- or like B- or what. Like it just gives you this random grade. You know, I think it's just. I mean, I don't know exactly what it's based on, but maybe it's just the ADP. I'm imagining that has to do with like how they give you the draft grade, but. Is draft grade just a gimmick? Like, have you guys seen that that's actually, hey, there's some objective data here to show that it actually matters, or is it just like a random gimmick that they do?
Jordan, take the floor.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. I think it's just an ADP calculator averaging it out who like drafted according to their rankings the best. But for example, like in my league, it has me ranked kind of low, but I only have one tight end, and it's Dallas Goedert because I took him in like the late rounds, and I have one quarterback. I had got Jaden Daniels in like the 7th round, which I was very happy with because I thought that was a pretty big faller.
Nice.
But because of that, I took Casey Concepcion in the later rounds rather than adding another quarterback. So like by the apps, the ESPN is going to think that, well, if I would have taken a second quarterback, that's more value. That's a better value or a higher drafted ADP pick. But to me, there's no upside there. I'm not going to start that quarterback over Jaden Daniels ever. So it's like that's a wasted pick. I'd rather take the upside on if Casey Concepcion pops off, he's on my team. So that to me, like I don't really care that I get a worse grade because I take shots like that. I'm trying to win the league. I'm not trying to have the best draft grade.
It gets to the point. In a redraft league, there's always quarterbacks you can get in the free agent waiver, but you can't always pick the breakout star. Like sometimes they're already on someone's benches, right? I think that those grade things they're really fun for people to talk shit to their friends, but they don't translate to actual results or success. That they're completely invalidated, I think, from my experiences in fantasy football. I love being like a C+ team that it wins the championship. And the guy who had an A- is in like 8th place. I love talking shit to that guy after the season.
Wow. Draft grades. What a weird concept. Anything on that end, Drew, or you think it's pretty similar? Just kind of a gimmick?
I do have one draft strategy to ask you guys here. For anyone listening, feel free to chime in. When do you draft a kicker? What round is best to draft your kicker?
Just don't do it.
Yeah. Or last round. I mean,
Late as possible.
My two answers.
Yeah. Jordan?
Yeah, you could as late as possible. I mean, if realistically, you could stream kickers, defense, even tight end and quarterback. You could stream and then stack your team elsewhere, and you'll be in good shape in most leagues.
Anyone picking a kicker before the last round is wrong. And if you don't even have to pick a kicker in the last round, like if your draft is like 2 weeks ago and the season's a month away, then get somebody who might shine in minicamp. You can always pick up a kicker right before the game start.
Yeah, if the app doesn't force you to pick one, I almost never take a kicker during the actual draft. And the snarky answer is like contact your commissioner and remove the kicker from the lineup. But
yeah, because what control does the kicker actually have on their own success? I mean, very little. Like they don't get to choose when they kick it. They just get to kick it whenever their name is called. It's largely dictated on the head coaching decision and also on the offense that they play behind. And I don't know, kicking is stupid.
Yeah. Not just like no worse feeling than losing to somebody because their kicker scored like 30 points randomly. It's like, okay, well, I guess you out strategized me there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, that kicker had like an average of like 5 points for the 5 weeks previous, right? Like it's so random. There's no reason to draft it.
So Scott, you want to do some buy or sell with these guys?
Yeah, I think maybe we just name like a few people that you guys feel like are maybe mispositioned in the ADP here. And I don't know if anything comes top of mind, but I'll kick us off here with Christian McCaffrey sitting at the number 5 in average draft position in leagues. And a guy at his age and with his injury history, how do you guys feel about that in a redraft league format?
I'll take that because he was actually one of the names I was thinking of like coming into this. I think he's overvalued, honestly. You're basically drafting him to like score at his ceiling again to earn that value of going at the 5th pick versus the other players available there. And he's coming off like a record touches. He's a year older. He has an injury history. Like it's just a lot of improbabilities that it could pay off at the end of the season. But he's also CMC and has that like league winning. He maybe has one like better season in him somehow. You never know with like a Hall of Fame talent like that. But
Yeah. Well, let me ask you then, Drew. Like Jonathan Taylor is valued at least by the Yahoo. We just picked one, and Yahoo has him 2 picks later. Like, would you rather have Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey?
in that instance, I would probably go CMC. Just because if he's healthy, he's going to get fed the ball and like the offense will run through him. Versus Indy, like if something happens, if Daniel Jones isn't as effective, if they have another injury on the offensive line, like teams can just do everything they can to stop Jonathan Taylor, which is basically like why he fell off the face of the earth last season. Is
Yeah.
like they just loaded the box every game because they had no quarterback or receiving option really.
Last follow up for you. At that
Mhm.
same spot, JSN is listed 1 spot after McCaffrey. You take him?
I take JSN for sure.
Me too. Absolutely. Jordan, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm a little bit biased because I do own CMC in our Dynasty League, and I'm hoping he has a good year.
I passed on that shit, man. I passed on that trade. You took it. You know what? You'll probably do better than me, but I passed on that like nearly identical trade that you took. When it's happened to the same dude like 5 years out of his career, it's kind of like,
Okay, well, do you think that that's Joe Burrow is doing something wrong because he's been injured? He has his wrist, his elbow, and he tore his ACL. Do you think he's injury prone, or do you think he's just unlucky?
I think
'Cause he's
that's a
had
great debate.
injuries.
I think that's
I
a
mean,
great
he's
debate.
been. He's
I
one
mean,
of the
as a
healthy.
person who had many sports injuries myself, I actually view myself as injury prone. So maybe I should look at athletes the same way.
I say that because it's like, is it just bad luck, or like when you blow out your ACL, usually it's like on a wonky play and you just like got off balance, someone hit you or shoved you in a weird direction, and then your leg gets stuck in the ground and you
Yeah.
blow it out. Like it's not like you. Like because your knee was necessarily worse than anyone else's.
But there is a thing though that if you've had an injury before, you're more likely to have that same injury again. Not saying that you're likely to have it, but you're more likely than if someone who hasn't ever had it.
I guess that's true. I guess that would be if you're getting the same injury over and over again. Like if you have like Mike Evans and his hamstrings, like that's clearly a thing. We know about that. But CMC like has had like some lower body issues. He is. It is a little bit different because he's a running back and you're going to have more wear and tear. All that to say, long answer to say that obviously I'm hopefully buying it because I mean if you can injury bug up 5, if not the number 1 like score in all of fantasy, and you could say maybe an age thing, like an age cliff thing, that's a good argument. It could happen.
Yeah.
At 5, like it is a little. I'll be honest, it's a little high, but if it hits, it's just like it has the highest fantasy, like straight up.
I can't buy him this year, but I don't blame anyone who does. The years where he doesn't get hurt, he is usually like the best or one of the best players in the whole league for fantasy football. So that's a gamble that's kind of worth taking, I think, based upon the historical value. I just at this point can't justify it myself.
Not just that, the year that Ant was, I guess 2 years ago, or was 2 or 3 years ago now, that I think maybe the first year that Ant won. That year, I think he scored 100 or damn near 100 points more than the RB2.
Yeah,
like he had 300 something points. So it's not like he's like just a little bit better than like the next option as far as running backs go, but it's like it's significant. It's obviously a lot.
He's been on the roster for 2 championship teams now, and they were different teams. He was on Travis' team last year too.
Well, that was because of Derrick Henry, but we won't get into that.
I mean,
well, I think the unfortunate part about his ranking at number 5 is that they're not accounting for that practice field.
The electrical plant?
Yeah, the electrical plant that apparently everybody gets injured because of. So I don't know, maybe.
I mean,
can I throw a zag in real quick?
Yes, of course.
Can I throw a zag in? I'm gonna mention it back to you guys. In a similar vein, one of the players that I think is a value, which maybe on your list, I apologize if it is, Malik Neighbors is a name that I think is severely undervalued. So it's kind of the same thing, right? He's coming off of an injury, but he's got elite upside. So but the value is probably really good this year, no?
Well, you would think that Malik Neighbors would be in this like top 10 probably if he never got hurt. Maybe. There are some big names in there.
I mean, this year he'd probably go above Justin.
You think he'd go above Jefferson?
He'd be in top 10. I think he would have
Where's
never
he
got
ranked?
hurt.
He's ranked 24th right now. That's crazy. He's ranked 24th right now in ADP.
I learned that the hard way last year when I picked him and he got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, we got guys, other guys. Let's talk about this. Nico Collins, with also some injury history, is ranked above him. Nico's also been pretty good, so I'm not trying to slight him, but I think there's definitely some arguments to be made there, Jordan. We also never really got to see Neighbors play with Dart. Like, Neighbors kind of got hurt before things really picked up in that offense.
Yeah. They also have like Matt Nagy calling the offense now, and I think people are pretty down on that. And they don't really have another weapon like opposite him. I have a one dynasty share of Neighbors, which is fun, but Redraft he is kind of spooky with some of the receivers around the like. I actually do think Nico belongs ahead of him, especially with the Jaden Higgins injury.
Yeah,
I think like if we're gonna do like if CMC stays healthy, like if Nico stays healthy, like I think he can be a top 5 receiver. And he's like clearly has a system we know works there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like, can the offensive line stay healthy? Is Stroud going to be decent? But I just feel better about having seen him do it more years.
That's fair. Yeah. A lot less variables there. Well, let me ask you guys this in the interest of time here. What is in your opinion, like when you draft and redraft right now, what is the value, the one player you're hoping to get at their value? Like, who is somebody you get really excited that you hope you get based upon their value? And anyone can start. Deeb, I know you haven't prepped a lot. Have you looked at these lists? Maybe you can start.
I'm looking at it right now. Let me see. I would probably say if I had to pick one person on here, I actually like Kenneth Walker. I know you mentioned that earlier, Jordan. If Kansas City can do Kansas City things and not have the season they had last year, like he can be a weapon in that offense. And if Mahomes is healthy, he can actually be a pretty good. I think he has a lot of upside, especially coming off the Seahawks year last year.
I think that is a sneaky good potential there.
He also got hurt today.
Did he?
I didn't see that.
He's got a foot injury.
Oh my God. There you go.
That pairing with the Chiefs made so much sense. That's so tragic. I hate the preseason, dude. There's so many damn injuries.
Well,
you never know how serious they are because people don't always show their cards. That's another thing with CMC, really quick. You never know how injured he is because they just lie to you. Like that year, like 2 years ago, they're like, oh, he'll be starting Monday, and then he just didn't play the whole season. Screw that.
Yeah.
Drew, what about you? What is your go ahead, Deeb.
No. I want to hear your guys' the player, and then I want to ask you about one more person because I'm curious because I've seen this person getting hyped on social media.
Okay. A couple like quarterback values I think that are really interesting are like Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying it because I have like a dynasty share of him. I actually like don't like him as a player in generally speaking, but like you can get him 3 or 4 rounds after like when somebody takes Josh Allen sometimes. And so that's just so much more value you could stack in that Josh Allen row and then maybe get basically the same weekly output. I think the offense has a chance to bounce back this year. I know a lot of people really like Devonta Smith this season too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to zag and say like, hey, healthy offensive line, new offensive system, I think there's a world where like Hurts is like a QB 1 or 2 this year. And you're getting him like 3 or 4 rounds after what Josh Allen's going at.
That's fair. Jordy, what about you? Yeah.
So there's actually a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do a shameless plug on my guys in my dynasty real quick. Okay, shameless plug. I just feel like there's a world where both Zay Flowers and Waddle pop off this year. I just feel like that's a definite possibility. You got a revamped offensive-minded Baltimore. He is the head coach, right? Declan Doyle, or is he the new OC? Who's the head coach there? He's the OC. Sorry, he's the Ben Johnson tree guy. So new OC in Baltimore, and then Sean Payton obviously knows how to do offenses, and Jalen Waddle, but really, and then Devonta Smith. Actually, that was the one I was going to say off of.
I'm high on Devonta this year.
I've said it for a long time. He might be one of the best wide receivers. He won the damn Heisman. Like. Now he's the guy. Like, I don't know, man. He could just absolutely go crazy.
Quick, 10-second sidebar, but for all the college football heads out there, like watching Waddle and Devonta Smith at Bama is like imprinted in my brain so deep. Like they were so sick. Moving on.
Jordan, how do you view Devonta Smith how do you liken that to like a George Pickens? Because I'm really curious about where Pickens fits into the equation this year. And I'm taking advantage of you being on the podcast because I do have Pickens in my dynasty share.
Difficult because I do think there's a theoretical ceiling for a Pickens or T. Higgins type. Like when you have someone who's clearly the 1A and you're the 1B, it does seem like there's a ceiling to it. Last year, I feel like was like the best case scenario. Like CD missed time, Dak can sling and get him some production. Can they both do it? Sure. I feel like there's a little bit of a ceiling. I don't think there's a Jalen can't throw down the field, which some people would argue is not likely. Sure, but I don't know. He balled out in the Super Bowl that they won. Like, I mean, he's shown like I don't know. I feel like he's a little disrespected. I know Drew doesn't like him that much.
I don't either, but I think it's a consistency issue. Like he can be that guy. I just don't think he does it regularly.
I just think
yes,
scores a lot of points.
He scores a lot of points.
I want to say one like you pick or like a pick that no one really cares about. Swift, DeAndre Swift. I feel like he's the starter. People like Monungai there in Chicago, but it's going to be like a top offense or predicted to be a top offense, and he is the starter.
Monungai's a big threat, though. Like when I think about these teams, I look deep into the season, and when we're looking at like week 10, 11, 12, what does that share load look like? Because Swift's not getting younger. Is he still going to be like a workhorse, or is Monungai going to be getting 50-50 or more at that point?
You want to pick players on good offenses, and that offense is predicted to be a really good offense. So
I chose them to be a Super Bowl team this year. Do you hear that? I don't know if you listened to last week's episode.
Ooh,
I chose Bills Bears. Yeah, I went out on a ledge.
Staying with that team for a sec, I would take Rome over Burden.
It's crazy to me that that's not a consistent thought. Like, no shade on Burden. Burden's sweet. But it's crazy to me that some people think Burden's better than Rome now. I don't think that's even a realistic. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me at all to think that way.
Dang, you guys must be mind readers because that's exactly who I was going to ask about. I swear.
Luther Burden?
Yeah.
I think he's awesome. I think he might be a little overhyped though because he had a couple of really good weeks of production at the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think he's gonna have a big year.
Rome. You're saying Rome?
Rome, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I think another question mark I have is Parker Washington out in Jacksonville in a world where they've got 3 wide receivers that could be the wide receiver 1. It seems like he's got all the hype. It's almost like everyone's forgotten BTJ even exists. And Jacoby Myers is still a decent wide receiver who's had pretty good consistency across all the teams he's been on. But my guy, my value player this year, call me crazy. I've been saying this, and I don't even know if I have him in any leagues. I think he always gets picked right before I want to take him. But I think Justin Herbert could be like that dude this season. You got Mike McDaniel out there now with Jim Harbaugh. That offense has got to be cooking on all cylinders. If it's not, then like it never will be because those two coaches should get that done. That seems like a team that could really turn the corner this year and be a contender deep in the playoffs if things start to click. And so give me Justin Herbert. And unless, he's too tied up making out with Madison Beer on the sidelines during practice, then he could be an MVP candidate even.
Sound like me last year.
Yeah, you did say that last year.
Didn't work out though. It's okay. It happens. I want you guys to just give me just a buy or sell. We're going to do a quick run. I'll name a player. You just give me a buy or sell because I'm curious about a couple of these guys. David Montgomery on the Texans.
Buy for redraft, not for dynasty.
Okay. So. Okay. What about Quinshon Judkins on the Browns?
I sell on every Browns player.
Okay. Bucky Irving on the Bucks.
I'm saying buy this year on Bucky, and the last year I'll say it. Sell is a popular thought this year.
What about Ladd McConkey?
Well, based on what I said earlier, I'm going to buy Ladd.
Yeah, I just don't know. I've never been a Ladd guy. I'm going to sell.
Is Ladd's not an alpha, like a big receiver? And is he a Munra? Like, I feel like that's what
I think Ladd is a Cooper Kupp. Other than the couple of seasons that Cooper Kupp was like elite, I think he's Cooper Kupp at the mean, not at those top seasons of his career.
Okay.
All right, I got a couple more. Marvin Harrison Jr.
Big buy.
You guys are buying it. Well, what's his ADP?
At 69.
Nice.
I'd probably buy him there. My question is what's the quarterback situation there? But then again, Jacoby Brissett was pretty impactful last season, which also begs the question of, is Is Kyler Murray good? I don't know.
All right,
I
last
would-
two. Last two.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Jordan.
Real quick, I would just like to say I'm more of a buy in Dynasty, not in Redraft.
I agree with that for Marv.
All right, last two. Kyle Pitts Sr.
I'll just stick with what I say every year. Buy. Eventually, it's going to pay off.
It hurts me to say buy, but I kind of feel like he's going to have a big year.
Then last one, Jackson Dart.
Sell. I think you get
I
the
would
rushing
Scotty.
upside with Jackson Dart, but I think he's going to have injuries because he doesn't play smart.
I'm a sell. I think. Yeah.
Same.
Three sells. Okay.
I think he's overvalued at his ADP. He could be really good, but I don't think he's going to play 17 games of football this year, unless he changes the way that he plays, which then might not make him as good for fantasy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, gentlemen, that was our buy or sell. We kind of wanted to get your guys' idea on some specific players to give people an idea of who we are thinking could pop off this year, who's maybe some folks that we can recommend or not recommend. And it's going to certainly help me, I think, when I look at my redraft this coming Sunday, because like I said, first time pulling up an ADP list was today. So I was just going through these and I'm like, oh, that person's kind of high, or wow, I didn't realize that person was that good, apparently. But again, ADPs, take them with a grain of salt. So any parting words that you guys want to give to the listeners or anyone out there who has a draft upcoming, or just in general that you want to tell people about for fantasy football?
Drew, go ahead.
I just say rip some mocks. They're fun, and it helps to try out different builds and be able to see how you'd react if you took somebody in this round. Like if you took a tight end early, do you think you can make up enough talent later? You don't want to be caught off guard like doing your first draft and seeing the ADP for the first time, like during the actual draft. And then just pick players you like to root for. Makes it easier on Sundays.
How about you, Jordan?
That was the main thing, was pick your players you want to root for. And don't overthink it. Have fun. It can be less fun when you try to overthink it, try to follow. So just wait and gobble up all that running back and wide receiver.
I like the
My-
don't overthink it.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing here is don't put too much pressure on it, especially if you're new to fantasy football or you haven't done it for a while. Don't put too much pressure on it. Just have fun with it. You can do the best you can with drafting, but so much of fantasy football week to week still comes down to some luck and some big breaks. There's been times that things shouldn't have happened that have led to somebody winning that should have gotten their ass whooped. You can't control everything, so just try to enjoy it and don't put too much pressure on it.
And if you guys are looking for a fantasy football draft guide, we have had the pleasure of having these gentlemen fill out some information, and we're curated that into a draft guide for you to take a look at. It's not going to be, anything too crazy. It's not going to give you a tier list or anything like that, but it'll hopefully give you some information, as you've kind of heard on this pod, and a little bit extra, so that you can go into your draft this coming year with some more confidence, which I'm feeling a lot better about thanks to these guys here.
Hell yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you boys for coming on tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed some good sips and some good conversation. Definitely was had. And maybe we'll chat again soon about some different elements of fantasy football that we didn't cover tonight once the season gets started.
Yeah, we'll have to see a post-mortem on some of our drafts. Maybe some places that we hit. We'll have to keep ourselves accountable.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Cheers.
All right,
guys.
gents. Well, cheers. Thanks for coming on.
See you guys.